Ramadan, the last session for Ramadan. We had the first one in Endeavour Village, the first Sunday of Ramadan, and the second one we had it in that delightfully beautiful countryside village of Las Lomas. And they told me the meaning of Las Lomas is the hills and dales. Yeah, I love Las Lomas, mashallah. And then the third one we were supposed to have last Sunday in Barakpur. But Barakpur has asked for it to be rescheduled, so now we'll have the session in Barakpur, not Ramadan session, of course. It will be a public lecture, but it will be on Saturday, June the 23rd, at Maghrib time, at the Barakpur Islamic Center, where we had the International Islamic Retreat almost 10 years ago. MashaAllah, we had people from 30 different countries coming to Trinidad for that memorable and enjoyable International Islamic Retreat, which took place in the Islamic Center in Barakpur almost 10 years ago. And once again, we'll be in Barakpur on June, take a note, June 23rd, Saturday, June 23rd, Yawm Sabt, and it'll be at Maghrib time. And our topic is an exciting one. The topic is introducing Dajjal, the false Messiah. Introducing Dajjal, the false Messiah. So do please come and join us. But the Imam at Las Lomas has extended an invitation to me. He's my son, my spiritual son, Imam Asif. I knew him as a baby growing up, yes. And he's now the Imam at Las Lomas number 1 Masjid. And they've invited me to come again. So I'm going to accept the invitation on Saturday, June the 30th. Again at Maghrib time in Las Lomas number 1. And if you're in the area around Las Lomas, do please come and join us Saturday, June the 23rd, Saturday, June 30th at Las Lomas number 1. And it's the topic that's going to be very, very important, the prohibition of riba in the Quran and Sunnah. So we might take a little time on Saturday the 30th. Do please come and join us on Saturday 30th at Las Lomas number 1 Masjid at the time of Maghrib for the lecture on the prohibition of riba in the Quran and Sunnah. This is just to remind those of you on the internet viewing this program, just remind you once again that we've already exhausted all the space. We have no more space now for the seminar on riba in London on July 23rd. So if you want to attend, it's now too late. July 23rd, an all-day seminar in London. We are almost now also full out for the seminar in Manchester on August 25th. July 29th is London, and August 25th is Manchester. If you still want to attend the seminar in Manchester, do please send an email to me. We may be able to accommodate you. This is also an all-day seminar in Manchester on riba. The next day, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I mentioned it, that the next day after the seminar in Manchester, and that will be August the 26th at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I have got an invitation, from the Greek Orthodox Christian congregation of the city of Leeds. And Leeds is, I was told I've never been to Leeds. I'm told it's about 1 hour's drive from Manchester. So the Greek Orthodox Christian congregation have invited me to speak to them on Islamic eschatology, the conquest of Constantinople in Akhir Zaman. And that is at 5 p.m. But I don't think we should all go 100, 200 people into the church. No, not at all. If you'd like to join us for that session, it's better that we limit ourselves to maybe 20, 25 people, not more than that, so that they may have space there in the church. If you'd like to attend, I suggest you send me an email, so we limit the number of people who can accompany me to that lecture. in Leeds, inshallah. Then on August the 5th and August the 19th, if you're in Pakistan, on August the 5th and August 19th, we'll be lecturing in Karachi. The venue will be on my website. The first lecture on August 5th will be on Dajjal, introducing Dajjal, the false Messiah. And the second lecture on August the 19th will be introducing Gog and Magog in the Quran. I'm not sure the time of the lecture. I don't know if it's maybe about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but anyhow, we put it on my website. You'll see it there, inshallah. And then finally, if you're in Malaysia, please take a note that August 10th at Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab in Damansara, and August 11th at Masjid Subanjaya. Both lectures at the time of Maghrib. The one in Subanjaya is the launching of this book, Methodology for the Study of the Quran, and we have it in English. And the good news is also it's already been translated to Malay as well, and it's in the printry now, being printed in the Malay language. So both the English and the Malay books will be available on August the 11th. I think, yes, if I remember correctly, the lecture topic in Damansara at Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab will be implications of the return of Jesus, of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, for the Muslim world. Yes, I think that's the topic. For Damansara, Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab. Now then, it is the 25th day of Ramadan, and we prepare now to say Al-Wida, goodbye to Ramadan, and we have to thank Allah again and again and again and again, who not only gave us this blessed month of Ramadan, the month in which the Quran was sent down, and in the month in which He instituted this wonderful fast of Ramadan, months-long fast. We are the only people in human history. We are the only people who have been blessed with this 1 month, consolidated 1 month fasting from dawn until sunset. Others have their fast. The Hindus have their fast. The Christians, the Jews have their fast. And we have ours. And we are tremendously proud and happy to have been blessed with the fast of Ramadan. Now then, the Quran tells us, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, that the Quran was sent down in the month of Ramadan. Yes. But then the Quran also says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. We surely sent it down not only in Ramadan, but also we sent it down on a night in Ramadan. And that night is given the name, the night of power, the night of Qadr, the night of destiny. And we have explained in previous lectures, and I'm so pleased and happy that the Internet has allowed these explanations to reach people so many parts of the world. I have someone in Geneva. He is at the United Nations in Geneva, the Palais des Nations. And he is Christian, he's in the Roman Catholic Church. Maybe he will listen to this lecture. And he said, I've been listening to your IBN lectures. Yes. So his name is Christian. So Christian, good morning to you, Christian. And I'm happy that you're listening. And the explanation is that the whole Quran was sent down on the night of power in the month of Ramadan from the Law al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet in heaven, sent down to the lowest sky, the lowest sama on that night. And then from the lowest sama, Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel Gabriel, he brought it down piecemeal over a period of 23 years to the heart of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And so the process of revelation of the Quran is a process of sending down, coming down through different worlds of space and time. And in the same way that the Quran came down, the Quran can take us up. Did you hear that? Yes. In the same way that the Quran came down, the Quran can take us up. The Prophet ﷺ spoke of the Quran as like a rope, one end with Allah and the other end here. That's right. That's the Quran. And this night is a night, the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, said, look for it on the odd nights of the last 10. The month is divided into 3 parts. The first part of Ramadan is the first 10, and then the second 10, and then the last 10. And the first 10, if I'm wrong, please correct me, Sheikh. The first 10 is the 10 of Rahmah, and the second is the 10 of Maghfirah, and the last 10 is the 10 of Qurbah. Correct? Yeah, okay. We have a Sheikh from Bangladesh here with me. So this last 10 now is a 10 of Qurbah, of coming closer to Allah, Qurbah. And you look for the night of power, the night of destiny, in the odd nights of the last 10. And there is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ was about to inform us which night it is, and then there was some kind of altercation between 2 Muslims, and he was so upset by it that he forgot the night. No, it is Allah who caused him to forget. Because Allah says, سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. We'll teach you, and you will not forget except that which we ordain that you forget. Okay, this is the Quran. سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. So he said, look for it in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, on the odd nights. And he had a preference for the 27th night of Ramadan, but we don't know for certain if it's the 27th. So in 2 nights from now, tonight will be the 26th, and tomorrow night will be the 27th. And traditionally, we've come to the conclusion it's the 27th night of Ramadan, but we don't know. Having said that, let us spend a little time on this part of the surah, Suratul Qadr, in which Allah says about the night of Qadr, the night of power, Laylatul Qadr. Listen to what he says and put on your thinking caps. He says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. That the night of Qadr is better than 1,000 months. If you're a Hindu, think. If you're a Christian or a Jew, think, because your thought might be beneficial to us. We don't have a monopoly on knowledge as Muslims. We don't have a monopoly on truth as Muslims. We believe the truth was in the world long before the Quran came. And we believe the truth came to all people, okay? So now, what does it mean that this night is better than 1,000 months? Okay, what is proper methodology. Proper methodology, shall we remind you one more time, is never take any verse of the Quran by itself in isolation to study it. That's not the way. Because if you do that, then you'll have to say that Satan or Iblis is an angel. Yes, that's what you have to do. If we use that schoolboy methodology of taking a verse in isolation, that Iblis or Satan is an angel and he fell down, he became a fallen angel. Oh, no, angels don't fall down. No. When you take the verse in isolation, you come to that conclusion. Inescapable. But Allah He's constructed the verse of the Quran in this way to teach a lesson in methodology. And He did it at the beginning of the book. When you take the whole Quran, you come to a different conclusion. And the Quran tells us that angels have no choice. They have no choice. They have no free will. They have no self-directed will. No, they cannot disobey. They have to obey. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. So if he disobeyed, he can't be an angel. I mean, it's so simple. And then in the Quran, in which surah? Suratul Kahf, Allah says, وَكَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ. He was a jinn. So now, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. The night of Qadr, the night of power, the night of a tryst with destiny is better than 1,000 months. If we do not take this verse in isolation, but we expand the canvas to go to the rest of the Quran, what do we get? We get something very interesting connected with the different worlds of space and time. Do you remember 2 weeks ago we talked about Suratul Fatiha? And there was this, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ who were traveling in the desert. Do you remember the story, the hadith? And it was sunset and they were tired and hungry and they came upon a tribe, but that tribe was still worshipping the idols. And they didn't like this new religion which says, no, God is one God and you can't put God in a temple. No. So we expected some hospitality. Arab hospitality is legendary. But they didn't like us, so they didn't offer any hospitality. So we settled down for the night without any hospitality. And in the middle of the night, one of the members of the tribe came and shouted out, brothers, wake up, wake up. Our chief has been bitten by a snake and we have no medicine for him. And if we don't treat him by tomorrow morning, he'll be dead. Do you have anything in your new religion that you can help us? So we said, since you offered no hospitality, you're going to have to pay. So they asked, how much? So we said, 100 sheep. So they said, deal. So one of the Muslims went to the chief, recited Suratul Fatiha, which is like the Christian's Lord Prayer, but this one, Suratul Fatiha, is that which opens. It opens the Quran. And he recited Suratul Fatiha, which is the first surah of the Quran, and he blew ru'ya, they call it faith healing, spiritual healing, ru'ya, and he blew on the chief, and the chief was cured. Yeah, that's right. The chief was cured. And we took the 100 sheep and we returned to Yathrib, which at that time, of course, was known as Yathrib, and today is known as Medina. And no one should be offended for me speaking the truth. And we said to the Prophet ﷺ, this is what happened, can we keep the sheep? He said, yes, keep the sheep. People have been rewarded for less than that. And he said, how did you know that there is ru'ya in Surah Al-Fatiha? And then he went on to say that there is a cure for every illness in Surah Al-Fatiha. And I attempted 2 weeks ago, if you will recall, to explain the link between Surah Al-Fatiha and the capacity to heal. And I said that the Quran declares about Allah that He is a Shafi, the one who heals. Shifa is healing. Mustashfa is the hospital. So He is the one who heals. And if Surah Al-Fatiha is to heal, it will only heal, it will only provide shifa if it reaches Him. The command center from where Allah commands and controls the whole of creation is called the Arsh. The Arsh. I don't know how to translate the word Arsh except as command center. If I say the throne, well, the Quran uses the word kursi for His throne. So you'll have to excuse me. The only term I can use for the word Arsh is the command center, from where He controls all of creation. So the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha has to reach the command center, and I have only 15 minutes left. Oh my gosh. We have to reach to the command center. And the Quran tells us that there are 7 worlds of space and time between this material universe and the Arsh. 7 worlds of space and time, sab'a samawat. And the Quran refers to Surah Al-Fatiha as sab'an min al-mathani, 7 oft repeated verses. Shall I spend the time now to identify which is number 1, which is 2, number 3, number 4? And when you reach number 7 and you have completed 7 and you have completed Surah Al-Fatiha, so Surah Al-Fatiha is now finished, then you recite Ameen. So Ameen is not a part of Surah Al-Fatiha, no. Ameen is recited only after you finish Surah Al-Fatiha. So I said, this is 7, and that is 7. So I offered an opinion that when we recite Surah Al-Fatiha, those of us who want that our recitation should reach the Arsh, we should recite each verse separately. This is simply your brother speaking to you. If you want to recite the whole thing in one breath, that's your choice. I'm not going to have any boxing match with you. If you want to recite 3, 4 verses together, I'm not going to have any boxing match with you. Please, I am not arguing with you. I just said this is my preference, that we recite each verse separately. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful. Maliki Yawmiddin, the one who is sovereign on the day of judgment. His law is supreme law, not the constitution. His law is supreme law, not the parliament which declares that a girl cannot be married until she is 18. What rubbish. What godlessness is that? And then when you reach the 7th verse, وَلَدَّالِّينَ, at the end of the 7th verse, you've reached the Arsh psychologically. And there at the Arsh, you now make this dua, Ameen, be it so. And if Allah accepts this recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, then it can function as shifa. I remember reading about Rabia Basri, the very famous Muslim woman of the Arab world, who was intoxicated with love for Allah. And a woman came to her and complained to her that her husband was abandoning her. He was infatuated by some other woman and was abandoning her, and he was traveling to that other woman on horseback. And she wanted her husband back. You don't abandon a woman because you can marry the other one. Why abandon this one? So Rabia Basri said, don't worry, he'll come back. So the woman went back home, and late in the night, the husband returned. And he was extremely tired and exhausted, just threw himself on the bed and fell asleep. So this woman was surprised, astonished. How could Rabia Basri say that he will come back, inshallah? And he came back. So she went to Rabia, and said, Rabia, how did you do it? How did he come back? So Rabia Basri said, simple. I recited Surah Al-Fatiha and I sent it. Surah Al-Fatiha brought him back. Yes. So this is the power of Surah Al-Fatiha, and you recite the Surah Al-Fatiha to travel through the worlds of space and times. But please, 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 when you finish reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, please show some respect for Surah Al-Fatiha. Wait a little bit. Recite Ameen. Either you recite it softly, as in the Hanafi mazhab, or you recite it aloud in the Shafi'i mazhab. Both are correct. Don't demonize another people. If they recite it aloud, they have the right to do it. But you have to recite it, whether you recite it softly or whether you recite it aloud, you have to recite Ameen. And you give the people the chance to recite Ameen. How do I have to shout and shout and shout and shout? The grave is sometimes better than this world. Take your time and recite Ameen. Do it with your heart, that Allah might accept your Surah Al-Fatiha that you recited. I'm sorry, so much time has gone. Now then, the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, is connected with this. Because Allah says in the Quran that there's a day with the angels which is like 50,000 years by your counting. Another day which is like 1,000 years by your counting. And then our Prophet told us, Allah's blessing be upon him, about Dajjal, that when he's released, he will live on earth for 40 days. Yawmun kasana, a day which will be like a year. Yawmun kashahr, a day which will be like a month. Yawmun ka-jum'a, a day which is going to be like a week. And so clearly, when he speaks of a month, when he speaks about a night which will be like a month, this has to be understood in the context of all of this material. Clearly. A night which is like 1,000 months, a night which is Laylatul Qadri Khayrun min Alf Shahr. A night which is better, a night which is better than 1,000 months has to be understood in the context of all the material, all the data there is in the Quran. So this is a night for travel. In the month of Ramadan, we don't travel, we try to stay home. But in the month of Ramadan, there's also travel, internal travel. And internal travel is effected most of all in the last third of Ramadan, which is the third of Qurbah, of closeness to Allah. How do we travel? Travel is through the samawat. Is it possible to travel through the different worlds of space and time? Yes, people do it all the time. When I was a child here in Trinidad, I would see the Shouter Baptists. They will come underneath the Chinese shop after it's closed, or another parlor, and they'll all be dressed in their long gowns, and they'll have the bell, and the woman will be covered properly, and they'll be singing and singing and singing and singing until they catch the spirit. Yes. And they talk in tongues and so on. I used to see this as a child. What has happened to these Christians is that they came in worship and they were singing and they were singing and singing and clapping and clapping until they began to travel. That's it. So I don't think Muslims have any monopoly on travel. Christians can travel, Hindus can travel, Baptists can travel. But we also travel. And we're not talking about external travel. We're talking about internal travel. Does the Quran tell us anything about internal travel? Yes, it does. In Surah the 53rd Surah of the Quran, what's the name? I've forgotten the name of the surah now. My memory is going. Okay. The 53rd surah of the Quran. Allah speaks about الَّذِي خَلَقَ سَبْعَ سَمَاتٍ طِبَاقًا, that He has created the 7 worlds of space and time alongside each other. Then he goes on to say, مَا تَرَى فِي خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ مِن تَفَاوُتٍ. If you travel through the worlds of space and time, you will find no defect. No defect. فَارْجِئِ الْبَصَرَ هَلْ تَرَى مِن فُتُورٍ. Go ahead, travel. Your basar will return tired without discovering any defect. So it is with basar that we travel. Basar is your internal sight. Internal sight. And so when we come to Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, I think in French they would say, let me see if I'm correct in my French now, il y a des mondes au-dessus des étoiles. But the Indian poet, Iqbal, he used a beautiful terminology. I've not memorized much in Urdu, but I remember this one. He says the same thing as in French. He says, Sitaro se aage jahan aur bhi hai. Sitaro se aage jahan aur bhi hai. Beyond the stars, there are many worlds. And the month of Ramadan has come for us to travel. How do we travel? Basar, internal sight. What's the vehicle for travel? The Quran. When do we travel? Salatul Taraweeh. I have only a minute left now. Salatul Taraweeh is at the heart of the month of Ramadan. And when I go to Salatul Taraweeh in the masjid, I see everything mechanical, everything mechanical, including reciting the Quran at 95 miles an hour. And so I talk to the young ones because the elders seem to have their feet stuck in concrete. But no, my dear son and grandson and granddaughter, Salatul Taraweeh is to enjoy the Quran. And you could only enjoy the Quran if you could recite the Quran in Arabic. And you must recite it from cover to cover. My time is now up, so we'll continue next time, inshallah. But remember that today, today at 10:30 this morning, we'd love to meet you and bring your children with you at Muhammadville in El Socorro at 10:30 for our session, our last session on how to study the Quran from this book, Methodology for the Study of the Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and Ramadan Kareem.